Hey everybody, this is George from DinosaurGeorge.com. All right, Montrez from Albany, Georgia says, did Ceratosaurus have special tendons that absorbed and released energy in its legs so that it could jump higher, run faster, and move more efficiently than, say, Allosaurus? Well, Montrez, all predatory dinosaurs, all dinosaurs for that matter, anything that has legs has tendons that are used to help the muscles kind of move the body along. So yeah, it would. Now, there was nothing there that is unusual compared to other dinosaurs. He didn't have some super kind of leg design that gave him that ability. Really, the ability to move fast is based on a couple of things. One would be the musculature. Muscles drive everything. Think of tendons as being rubber bands. They don't do anything unless they're stretched and contracted, and that's done by the activity of the muscle. The other thing is how heavily built they are. If you have a skeletal design like an elephant, which is incredibly heavy and dense and robust, compared to the light-built skeletal design of, say, an antelope, that's going to make you a lot quicker because you're not carrying that much weight. And even though you may have bigger muscles, again, muscles weigh a lot, so they add an excessive amount of weight. So the speed of an animal is really determined more by things like its skeletal design and then its muscular design, and the tendons kind of don't have anything necessarily to do with how fast it is. It's more over what can the muscles do where the tendons can kind of assist. Okay, he also wants to know, did it produce any enzymes that acted as an anticoagulant that when it bit into a large prey item, they would just have to basically stand back and wait for the animal to bleed to death? There's no evidence that I've seen that would suggest that it had anything like that. Now, certainly when you look at the teeth of Ceratosaurus, I'll tell you something, Montrez, those teeth were pretty nasty, and just the wound alone that they would inflict could cause a tremendous amount of damage. To have anything that would sort of act like an anticoagulant, unfortunately, those things generally don't preserve in the fossil record, so there's no way of knowing. But when you look at the tooth design, there's nothing that would suggest that something from the gums is going to ooze down those teeth into a wound. Now, they didn't brush their teeth, so I can assure you they had a mouthful of bacteria simply because of the rotting plants, rotting meat that would have been stuck between and in their teeth. So they certainly had the ability to give what's called a septic bite, which is, you bite somebody and you've got a mouthful of bacteria that can cause some pretty nasty injuries and wounds and infections into the thing you bite. So certainly they could have done that, bit the animal and stepped back. They're not really designed for a full-on confrontation. You can get injured pretty easily in the dinosaur kingdom or the animal kingdom in general. So you want to go in, you definitely want to bite, and you want to get out of there. And I don't doubt that Ceratosaurus utilized that kind of concept. All right, Sam from Chiavari, Italy. Chiavari. God, I'm so sorry. Sam, Chiavari, Italy. Chiavari. Woohoo! Sam even went through the process of sending me a description of how to pronounce it. I still can't do it, man. I'm sorry, Sam. Anyway, how's things in Italy, buddy? He says, George, Buongiorno. I can't even pronounce that. Buongiorno. Thank you, Sam. Hi to you too, buddy. It's your #1 Italian fan. That's so cool. He says, have you ever read Harry Adam Knight's Carnosaur? You know what? I have not, Sam. I've not read that book. In fact, this is the first time I've heard of it. It's a brilliant book on cloning dinosaurs, which precedes Jurassic Park by 7 years. That's cool, man. That's very cool. I am unaware of that book, but I definitely am going to go out and try to get it. I hope some of you get it too. I'm sure it'd be an interesting read. Sam's question is, what is the largest dinosaur proven to have feathers? I don't know which one that is. Most of these feathered dinosaurs are relatively small. Now, I know that Velociraptor, it's been suggested that it had feathers on its arms because a paleontologist found what appears to be pretty good evidence to suggest that. But unless you see the actual feather, I don't know if you can say it can be proven that he had them. So I would have said Velociraptor, but I'm sure there's a couple of other ones. I don't know. They're all so small. The little feathered dinosaurs that I'm looking at are all very, very small. So I don't know. I would be surprised if some of the bigger predators had feathers other than display feathers. Feathers perhaps on the back of their neck, on their arms, or maybe on their tail, solely used to display. But other than that, when you become really large, feathers can almost become detrimental to you. Unless they're very, very light. And the reason why I say that is just the heat that they could generate. Seems like it would be difficult for an animal to be able to lose a lot of excess body heat if they had a complete covering of feathers. So I don't know. I don't know how big the feathered dinosaurs could have gotten, but so far from what I've seen, most of them are relatively small. All right, Ron from Hadera, Israel. Ron, I think you're the first person to write me from Israel. I believe you are anyway. He says, hey, DG, how are you? Ron, I'm doing great. How are you? If a megalodon was fighting a super croc, who would win? If I'm not mistaken, the croc was faster than the shark because the shark was bigger and heavier, and I think the croc had stronger jaws. Thanks for answering my question. Well, Ron, you're welcome. Boy, this is a tough one. Certainly crocodiles come with a tremendous amount of armored body. They are not so easy to slice through. They're not something you just simply bite through. And when you look at the size of super croc, Sarcosuchus, that's a big dude, man. That's a big animal. But at the end of the day, it always comes down to who can stay underwater the longest without having to worry about coming up for air. See, when you leave the fight and you go up for air, you're exposing your most vulnerable spot. That's your stomach. That's the same case on a crocodile. His back is very well protected, but his stomach is not. So I still think that a shark would have an advantage over anything it's fighting in the sea, simply because it has the ability to perpetuate the fight basically until it runs out of energy, and a big shark like Megalodon would have had a lot. But I got to tell you, Ron, that's a tough question. Maybe a coin toss would answer this one, because that's just a tough one. I don't know. Okay, Juan Yu, my buddy from Georgetown, Penang, Malaysia. Hello, DG. How are you? I'm doing great. How are you and your family, my friend? He says, I'm fine. Hope you are too. I have a question. Do you think it's possible that, contrary to popular culture, large theropods like T-Rex and Allosaurus may not roar at all? Brilliant question. Brilliant question. In the television industry and in Hollywood, we have to make our dinosaurs roar and scream and stomp and hiss. We do that, obviously, because it makes more exciting television. But did they actually do that? Well, when we look at things like the work that they're doing at Ohio University, Dr. Larry Whitmer and his team, and if you guys want to see something exciting, go to Whitmer's lab. He has a bunch of YouTube images. Look up Whitmer's lab. It's amazing stuff. They're demonstrating by looking at the inner ear that dinosaurs had a pretty decent size hearing range. And if your ears are designed to pick up a range of sounds and tones, then it seems very likely that you would need that to find a potential mate or a rival, or of course dinner. So to me, it seems like if they had that ability to hear at different ranges, they probably made a variety of sounds. Maybe it wasn't that screaming, roaring stuff you see on TV, but they may have been able to make some kind of noises. That's a great question, man. Finally, Joe from trexstudios from Walship, New Jersey. Hi, Dinosaur George. I remember watching Walking with Dinosaurs and the episode with the life of a dinosaur in Antarctica. I know it said that many of them migrated, but what do you think the ones that stayed year-round did? Do you think they could have had a layer of fat? Thank you for reading, and I hope you're doing well. Joe, that is another great question, man. What a great question. You know, in Australia, they found the remains of a dinosaur named Leolinosaura that had the ability to see in the dark. And in Australia, it would have remained dark for several months, much like it does in Alaska today. So it suggests that at least that dinosaur spent its entire life there. They found evidence of another dinosaur called Timimus that appeared to be capable of hibernating. So I would say that perhaps the little ones may have hibernated, or they may have had the ability to deal with the cold temperatures. Maybe it didn't get quite as cold as it does in Antarctica today, would be my guess. So the best guess I can tell you is some of them were capable of dealing with the cold weather, and maybe they just plodded through life the way animals like bison deal with the winters here in North America. All right, you guys, if you have a question, go to my website, dinosaurgeorge.com. Fill out the Ask Dinosaur George page and send it to me. Till next time, for you young people, practice your reading, and for everybody out there, please continue to use good manners, because it makes the world a better place. I'll see you guys soon. Take care.